Knowing how much you should be feeding your off the track can sometimes be a little tricky. So let me teach you one skill you can use that will tell you if your horse is eating a little bit too much feed or not quite enough feed, or if your feeding is, as Goldilocks would say, just right. When I say feeding here, what I mean specifically is the amount of energy or calories your horse is getting on a daily basis. Energy comes from almost every feed ingredient your off the track eats. With some feedstuffs like mature, browned off pasture and low quality grass hay being low in energy, and other feedstuffs like grains and oils being high in energy. The feeds you give your horse all combine to make up your horse's daily energy intake. And that daily energy intake will either match your horse's daily energy needs and in true Goldilocks style will be just right for your off the track, or it will be too high or too low. How do you know if the amount of energy you are feeding is just right? By body condition scoring. Body condition scoring is simply your own personal assessment of how much fat is on your horse's body. How does that relate to your off the tracks diet? Well, if your horse's dietary energy intake is too high, your horse will store that excess energy as fat on their body, and your horse will gain condition. Or, if your horse's energy intake is too low, your horse will be forced to use up some of its fat reserves to make up the daily energy shortfall, and your horse will lose condition. And if your horse's daily energy intake is just right, they will maintain the same body condition. Body condition scoring is a brilliant way to assess if you are feeding too much, too little, or just the right amount of feed for your horse. Condition scoring is an assessment of how much fat is on your horse's body. So, to assess condition score, we need to ignore muscle and just focus on the areas of the body that accumulate fat. These areas are the top or the crest of the neck, over the ribs, behind the shoulder, and the tail head. When I condition score thoroughbreds, I almost always only use the top of the neck and over the ribs. Mainly because it's not until a horse or pony gets really overweight that the area behind the shoulders or the top of the tail head starts to accumulate fat. So when working with off the tracks, you will rarely see these areas filled. So along the neck, what you want to do is, right about here, just pinch up the skin on the top of the neck. For a horse with little to no fat accumulated, you'll be able to pick the skin up and sort of feel your thumb and your finger coming together. The skin will be loose of sorts and easy to roll around on the top of the neck. As a horse starts to accumulate fat, this area will start to feel full and you won't feel your thumb and your finger coming together as much. It may feel a bit spongy and you won't be able to roll the skin around as much. As horses get fat, this area will start to feel firm and hard and you won't be able to pinch any skin up. And you will start to see the fat accumulated there as a cresty neck. I know that it is really hard to know how this feels with me just describing it to you in words. But here is what I want you to do. Every time you go near any horse from now on, start to feel their necks. Very fit and leaner horses will have skin that you can pinch up and roll around. And overweight horses will have firm necks with no loose skin. The difference in the extremes is really obvious. And once you learn them, you will be able to feel much more subtle differences. It just takes some practice. The second area I want you to focus on is over the ribs. In the area of the ribs, right about here, not too far forward, not too far back. In the lighter body conditions, you will be able to see the ribs, so the assessment in this area is initially visual. And if you can't see the ribs, then you need to feel over the ribs to see how easy they are to feel. With the idea being that the easier they are to feel, the less fat there is in that area. Just use a light pressure initially to run your fingertips over the ribs to see if you can feel them. When there is virtually no fat in this area, you can feel the ribs as easily as if you run your fingertips over the back of your hand. They are right there and really easy to feel. If you can't feel the ribs with just a light pressure, increase the pressure you are using to see if you can feel the ribs. The more pressure you have to use, the more fat there is accumulated in that area. In very fat horses, their ribs disappear. They can't actually be felt even when you push really hard. Okay, now you know the basics of condition scoring. Let's look at what some of the scores are and where your off the track should be in terms of condition. The following condition scores are based on a 1983 publication by Henneke et al. And are used worldwide to describe equine body condition scores. The scale starts with 1 being the lowest condition score through to 9 being the highest. We will just look here at scores 4, 5 and 6 because they are the ones most relevant to you with an off the track. For a full description of each condition score, grab a copy of the ebook that goes along with this video. When an off the track is in condition score 4, they won't look obviously thin, but you'll be able to see their ribs when you're standing back and looking at them. When you feel their neck, you'll be able to easily pinch up the skin and roll it around. In condition score 5, you'll no longer be able to see the ribs, which means you must feel the rib area to see how easily you can feel them. At a score of 5, the ribs are right there and very easy to feel with just a light pressure. And the skin on their neck is still able to be pinched up. And while there's the tiniest bit of filling there, the skin is still easy to pick up and roll around. When an off the track is in condition score 6, you'll need to use a little heavier pressure to feel their ribs. And you can feel an obvious layer of fat between their skin and the ribs. And when you feel their neck, there is a definite filling of fat underneath their skin. When you pinch the skin up, it will feel a bit spongy, and you get the sense that you can't get your thumb and your finger together as much as you can when a horse is in a lighter body condition. They are relatively subtle differences between the scores. But as you get confident in condition scoring, you will start to be able to pick up small shifts in your horse's condition. You might occasionally find that your horse has one score on the neck and another over the ribs. If that happens, just mentally average the scores to assign one in the middle. Scores 4, 5 and 6 are all healthy condition scores for an off the track to be maintained in. The condition you keep your off the track in depends to some degree on your horse, as well as your personal preference and the requirements of your horse's new career. While condition scoring will help you to know what condition your off the track is in, the point of condition scoring is not to know the score as such. Instead, it is to enable you to pick up subtle changes in condition. And those subtle changes will prompt you to make small adjustments to your off the tracks diet. If you don't condition score, you may miss the small shifts in your off the tracks condition, and only notice once your off the track is visibly thinner or fatter, which will then require you to make big changes to the diet. You should condition score often. Every time you lay your hands on your horse is ideal. It is particularly important to body condition score your horse regularly when your horse's environment, lifestyle or diet are increasing the likelihood of their condition changing. Weight loss is typically more of an issue in off the tracks. So let's have a look at some of the factors that may cause a loss of condition. Off the tracks can and often will lose weight quickly, which, when you have spent so much time and money building that condition, is frustrating and heartbreaking. But hopefully what you will learn in the next few minutes can help. Horses lose weight either because they have a reduced energy intake or because the amount of energy they are using has increased. A couple of the main things that will reduce your horse's energy intake and result in weight loss include a drop in the quality of your pasture, a change to a lower quality hay or to a hay that your horse doesn't really like to eat, a change to your off the tracks hard feed or the hard feed's digestibility, or any situation that reduces how much your off the track will eat. A few of the main ways your horse's energy expenditure will increase include an increase in activity, either through work with you or excessive voluntary exercise like fence walking, cold and especially cold and wet weather, disease and pain. Whenever your off the tracks energy intake drops or their energy usage is higher than their energy intake allows for, they will lose condition. And if those two situations combine, for example in winter, when pasture quality drops, reducing energy intake, and it gets cold, increasing energy expenditure, they can lose weight fast. But if you are condition scoring regularly and notice this happening early, you can make adjustments to their diet quickly and halt the weight loss, hopefully before it's even noticeable. Plus, you will also pick up much sooner if there is something subtle going on for your off the track with disease or pain, and you can hopefully fix that too. For some ideas on what to adjust in your horse's diet if you notice they are losing weight, go and watch video 2 in the How to Feed Your Off the Track Queensland Off the Track video series. A big chunk of that video talks about feeding for weight gain. To recap, remember that body condition scoring is a tool that tells you if your horse's daily energy intake is too high, too low, or just right. The best areas on your horse's body to use for scoring are the top of the middle of the neck and over the ribs. You should condition score your horse every time you have your hands on them. Be aware of conditions like falling pasture or hay quality, or a change in feeds that can reduce energy intake, and conditions like increased exercise, cold, wet weather, disease or pain that will increase energy use. Reduced energy intakes or increased energy use will both result in a loss of condition and a falling body condition score. When you have both reduced energy intake and increased energy expenditure, your horse will lose condition fast. That's all we have time to cover, but be sure to grab the ebook that goes along with this video, watch the section of how to condition score again, and get started with scoring. I promise it will take you 10 seconds once you have a tiny bit of practice. It is such valuable information to be collecting about your off the track, even if it's just mentally.